I'm 71 years old, and this morning it took me 40 minutes to get dressed. 40 minutes, not because I was being careful or taking my time. Because I physically couldn't do it any faster. My fingers wouldn't grip the buttons. My arms wouldn't reach behind me to tuck in my shirt. My balance wouldn't let me stand on one foot long enough to pull on my pants. I had to sit on the edge of my bed, breathing hard, resting between each piece of clothing like I'd run a marathon. And when I was finally dressed, I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. Not because I looked old, because I looked defeated. Getting dressed used to be nothing. You don't even think about it, do you? You just do it. You wake up, you shower, you put on clothes, and you start your day. It's automatic, mindless, until suddenly it isn't. Until suddenly it's the hardest thing you'll do all morning. And you realize that something fundamental has changed. Something you can't ignore anymore, no matter how hard you try. I live alone. I've lived alone for 6 years, since my husband died. At first, being alone felt manageable, almost peaceful. I had my routines, my ways of doing things, my own schedule, but living alone after 70 is different than living alone at 65 or 60. The house feels bigger, the tasks feel harder, and there's no one there to notice when you start struggling. No one there to see you standing in your bedroom, half-dressed, wondering how you're going to get through the rest of the day. The problems started small. They always do, don't they? I'd have trouble with a zipper in the back of a dress. I'd fumble with a necklace clasp. I'd get frustrated with buttons that seemed smaller than they used to be. At first, I'd just change into something easier, a pullover instead of a button-up shirt, elastic waist pants instead of ones with a zipper and button, slip-on shoes instead of laces. I told myself I was being practical, choosing comfort over formality. But really, I was adapting to limitations I didn't want to admit I had. Have you done this too? Gone through your closet and quietly moved certain clothes to the back because you know you can't manage them anymore? My daughter noticed before I did. Or maybe she noticed and I was just pretending not to see it myself. She came over one Sunday and watched me struggle with my cardigan. The buttons are small, decorative things, and my arthritis makes my fingers stiff in the morning. I kept missing the buttonholes. She offered to help, and I snapped at her, told her I could do it myself, told her I wasn't helpless. But my hands were shaking, and we both knew it wasn't going well. She didn't say anything else. She just looked at me with this sadness in her eyes that made me want to cry. Because she was seeing what I'd been hiding. She was seeing that her mother, who used to sew her Halloween costumes and knit her scarves and do embroidery on pillowcases, couldn't button her own sweater anymore. She was seeing aging and independence pulling in opposite directions, and she was afraid for me. I was afraid for me too, but I didn't want to admit it. The shower was where it got really bad. Not the showering itself, though that was hard enough with the bending and reaching and balancing. It was getting dressed afterward. When you're wet, when your skin is damp, and your muscles are tired, and you're standing on a bath mat trying not to slip, getting dressed becomes dangerous. I couldn't balance on one foot to step into underwear. I had to sit on the closed toilet lid, inching the fabric up while I was seated. Brass became impossible. The hooks in the back, the straps, the twisting and reaching. I started wearing sports bras that pull over your head, even though they're harder to get on when you're damp and your shoulders are stiff. Socks were humiliating. Is that a strange thing to say? But it's true. I couldn't bend far enough to pull them on properly. I'd get them halfway and have to stop, breathing hard, my back screaming. Sometimes I'd just give up and go barefoot in my slippers. Sometimes I'd sit there on the bathroom floor, struggling with a sock, crying quietly because something so simple had become impossible. When was the last time getting dressed felt easy? When was the last time you didn't have to think about it, plan for it, worry about it? I started setting out my clothes the night before. The easiest possible outfit, loose pants with an elastic waist, a pullover shirt with no buttons, socks that weren't too tight, slip-on shoes. I'd arrange them on the chair in my bedroom like I was preparing for a job interview, except what I was preparing for was the daily struggle of dressing myself. And some mornings, even with all that preparation, it still took forever. Still left me exhausted before my day had even begun. The worst part was that I couldn't hide it anymore. I'd make plans to meet a friend for lunch and then cancel at the last minute because I was too tired from getting dressed. I'd skip church because I couldn't manage the nicer clothes I felt I should wear. I stopped going to the grocery store as often because the effort of getting ready to leave the house was more than I could handle. My world was shrinking. Not because I didn't want to go out, because the simple act of putting on clothes had become a barrier between me and the rest of the world. And I didn't tell anyone. Not my daughter. Not my friends. Not my doctor. Because telling them meant admitting something I wasn't ready to admit. It meant acknowledging that I was losing independence in the most basic, intimate way possible. It meant accepting that elderly living alone, at least the way I was doing it, wasn't working anymore. I kept thinking about nursing homes. That fear that lives in the back of every older person's mind. The fear of being taken somewhere, of losing your home, of being dressed by strangers, of having no privacy, no dignity, no control. I'd think about that and then force myself through another morning of struggling with my clothes, telling myself that as long as I could dress myself, I was still independent. As long as I could do this one thing, I was still okay. But I wasn't okay. And pretending I was only made things worse. 3 weeks ago, I fell. Not in the shower, not on the stairs, in my bedroom, trying to pull on my pants. I lost my balance. 1 second I was standing there, one leg in my pants, and the next second I was on the floor. I didn't hit anything on the way down, didn't break anything, but I laid there on the carpet for a long time, my pants still tangled around one ankle, feeling the weight of how wrong everything had gone. How far I'd let things slide. How much danger I was in every single day, alone in this house, struggling with tasks that used to be nothing. I called my daughter from the floor. I couldn't get up by myself. She came over and helped me to my feet and finished helping me get dressed, and I let her. I didn't fight it. I didn't snap at her. I just stood there, crying, while she gently pulled my pants up and fastened them and found me a shirt that was easier to manage. And when I was dressed, she sat me down and we talked. Really talked. About what was happening. About what I needed. About what came next. We didn't talk about nursing homes. We talked about help. About options. About ways to make living alone safer and more manageable. She ordered me adaptive clothing with Velcro closures instead of buttons. She found a shower chair so I could sit while I dried off and dressed. She researched home care services, people who could come in a few times a week to help with the things I couldn't manage anymore. Not to take over my life, just to support it. It's been 3 weeks, and I'm still adjusting. The clothing helps. The shower chair helps. The aide who comes twice a week helps enormously. But the hardest part isn't the physical changes, it's the emotional ones. It's accepting that I can't do everything alone anymore. It's letting go of the idea that independence means never asking for help. It's understanding that losing some independence, the kind that puts you at risk, is actually how you protect the independence that matters most. If you're struggling with getting dressed, if it's taking longer and longer, if you're avoiding certain clothes or certain activities because you can't manage the clothing they require, please hear what I'm saying. This isn't just about buttons and zippers. It's about safety. It's about isolation. It's about the slow slide toward a crisis that could cost you everything. And it's about making choices now, while you still can, before someone else has to make them for you. There's still time to build support around yourself. There's still time to accept help, to make adaptations, to create a life that's both safe and dignified. But there's not unlimited time. The longer you wait, the more you hide, the more you isolate yourself, the harder it gets. And the more likely it becomes that one day you'll have a crisis that takes all your choices away. So please, be honest with yourself. Look at your daily routine. What's getting harder? What are you avoiding? What are you hiding from the people who care about you? Because those struggles are messages. They're your body and your mind telling you it's time to reach out. Time to adapt. Time to build a support system before you desperately need one. If this story spoke to you, if you recognized yourself in any part of it, I hope you'll subscribe to this channel and stay connected with these conversations. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment and let me know what you're dealing with, because none of us are alone in this, even when we feel like we are. Hit the like button if you found this honest and real. We need to talk about these things openly. We need to stop pretending that aging doesn't change us, that losing independence in small ways means we're giving up. Sometimes accepting help is the bravest thing we can do. And that's something I'm still learning, one day at a time.